Welcome to F1 or F Off, your audio pit stop for F1 news, interviews, and race reviews. I'm your host, Gabe.
And I'm Iddris, and I think you were doing a throwback to the opener of our band's EP back in the day.
Yeah, a little bit. Oh wow!
So at the time I was working on an internship prior to, I think I was actually working on my master's degree at the time. So at the place I was working, my coworkers they found out I was in a band, right? And then they got the CD because they asked for a copy, and I was like, yeah, sure. And so every day at 4 p.m. they would play the song, play the album, and they would like blast the first track, which is where I'm going. Oh! It was like a bad take when we were recording during that session, but it was hilarious that we included it.
I still remember the memory of sitting on the couch in the studio when that happened, and I was looking down at my phone, and I see her, and I remember looking up like, what? And we all just started laughing so hard. We couldn't believe it. But that was gold. That was gold. The record wasn't gold, but it should have been.
Yeah. We're talking album sales there. Real quick, Gabe, I see you are. I think we are T brethren today. Oh I have my my auto blur.
We're T brethren all the time. That's like part of the FUFO thing. Here, can we like clink the the way you have your screen is like right there. So 1, 2, 3, clink.
Oh, we're doing out. Okay,
yeah.
Okay, no, next time.
Yeah, what are you drinking? I'm raspberry hibiscus right now.
I have a nice Earl Grey with some honey, just to keep my voice ready to go, just in case I have to break into song at any time. That was a trick.
You never know.
Too. Yeah, just
you never know. Honey podcast.
Some honey to keep the vocal cords clean.
Yeah. Well, speaking of tea. We're about to spill some. Well, actually, no. Maybe we're not spilling the tea, but we are discussing the tea that is spilling.
That has been spilled.
That has been spelt and is spilling. Just in case any of you have been under a rock, which I would be surprised if you were still under the rock with all these explosive things happening outside of your rock. Amongst the wild things that have happened in this past few weeks, we are here to talk about the start of this. We're here to talk about Christian Horner and all the wild stuff that has transpired. Our resident expert of tea to spill here is Iddris. Because honestly, you've been way ahead of this on this than I have. I've just been like nose to the grindstone for a bit. But there's this has been taking some wild turns, more than I thought.
Absolutely. There's two things I need to address. If you're watching the video of this, you just probably saw me have like the weirdest reaction to what Gabe was saying. It was not to what he was saying. I just burned the crap out of my tongue on this.
Oh my God. Yeah, I wonder what happened to you.
You kept a straight face through all that. You're just like, he's really must be feeling weird in that seat. Oh no.
Well, I'm used to you reacting like that, where you're just like,
yeah. No.
And like roll back. So
that was like my tongue trying to get in the way of the hot liquid going down my throat at like scalding temperatures. Oh man. I'm good, guys. I'm good. I'll be able to make it through this pod today.
You know what's really nice? I bought a tea kettle now that you can set the temperature. Yes. So 180 degrees. Boom.
See, yeah, mine is probably at 240. Sheesh. Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
that's
yeah. So speaking of like scalding hot news, yeah, it feels like scalding hot tea actually. I don't know, Gabe. I feel like Drive to Survive really cannot, and this is going to be a joke, but this is not to make a joke of the scenario that we're about to talk about.
Right.
But I do not think Netflix Drive to Survive's like manufactured drama for this season and for next season can even hold a candle to everything we've seen in this last month of of F1 news, and we haven't even hit
Yes.
preseason testing yet, right?
No.
Like,
No.
I think the
I mean,
juiciest thing you can expect in like the build up to preseason testing is like a shirtless pic of Lewis, just like saying like I'm ready, which is what he dropped today. I don't know if you saw that.
I did see that. Yeah.
Yeah, he looks
He's looking
ready.
good. Hmm.
Looks good.
Yeah.
Probably Pilates, right? But
Probably. There's
yeah, I
lots of money
don't.
for a personal trainer.
And chefs and yeah, all that kind of stuff. Yeah. But oh my god, like it just has not stopped, right? It
No.
has not stopped, and probably for the FIA, this is probably a very good thing, especially in regards to the Andretti Cadillac situation. Because don't think we forgot about that, y'all. Like, we want
Yeah.
to come back to that.
Yeah. Well, I think you're right. I mean, usually right before preseason testing, like usually the drama comes from the cars themselves, right? Like,
Right?
oh,
Yeah.
like Red Bull copied whoever, or all these teams are copying Red Bull, or like
Mm-hmm.
here's a new sponsor, or crazy, here's a driver switch or something.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, well, that's the thing. I think like maybe this is the universe, the cosmos, like just course correcting from the pretty straightforward, no nonsense kind of season that we had last year. I mean, there was certainly some dramatic things that happened, or some weird, high school-esque drama, but
Mm-hmm.
I mean, for in F1 standards, it was not as intense as we've seen before. So this, I think, is like the universe being like, all right, guys, like buckle up.
Yeah.
24 is going to be bonkers,
Yeah.
because I mean, this could have some pretty intense ramifications. I mean, just to think, I mean, honestly, Christian Horner
Yeah.
has been the team principal for Red Bull since they were formed in 2005.
Mm-hmm.
So he has been the principal for that team this entire time,
Mm-hmm.
through thick and thin,
And a whole lot of thin.
fat and skinny. And yeah, like, I mean, and so he, in so many ways, like he's embedded into that team. Like
Mm-hmm.
he is that team, like him
Yeah.
and Adrian Newey, pretty much.
Yeah.
So
I mean, and he's honestly, if we're gonna talk about, because we always talk about goats of drivers, if we're talking about goats of like team principals, easily Christian Horner's in that conversation, right?
mhm,
Because of his leadership and like what he has been able to do with that team through different technical regulations, right? To technical regulation eras, right? Like he won
mhm,
in the with the duct diffuser, I'm sorry, the rear diffuser, right? During that era of
mhm,
between 2010 and 2013, right?
mhm.
4 times in a row, right? And
Yeah,
then
the end of the V8 era.
end of the V8 era,
Yeah.
right? And then you get to the turbocharged V6 hybrid era, right? And like wasn't able to find any kind of success until they get Verstappen, and then they start building up again, building up again, building up again, and then they finally nick the championship off of Mercedes, right? And
Mhm.
then in this new ground effect era, um, of cars, Red Bull has been the team, right? And
Yeah,
it looks like they're going
dominant.
to be, yeah, and it's very interesting because we're going to talk about liveries today too, and we're going to talk a little bit about some changes that have come to Red Bull that I think are really interesting, but like has led this team through all these changes, right? And then like the allegations that are made against him are like this could be monumental as far as the shift and impact that it has on this team, right? And
Sure.
their level of success, right? Because
Mhm.
like a team, I think it's definitely its people, but also its leader, right? A leader, like
Mhm.
if you have the right leader at top, you can keep the same people underneath, right? But if you have the right leader who has things structured in a way that makes sense, like you can always win. You can always find success, right? And I
Mhm.
think if you contrast this with Mercedes still has a great leader in Toto Wolff, right? But there've been a lot of big personnel changes underneath him, right? And I don't know if those personnel changes have matched with the structure that Toto has had in place, right, over the
Mhm.
last few years. So maybe that's why we haven't seen Mercedes being as on the ball as they have been in previous seasons, right? So,
Mhm. Yeah.
so let's just get right to it about Christian Horner. He has been, um, it has been claimed that he has sexually harassed an employee within his team, within the Red Bull Racing team. Um, it sounds like it is definitely of a sexual harassment nature, and it sounds like there's like strong evidence for it to get to this point that it is now.
Mm.
So what happened a few weeks back? I think this is like about 2 weeks ago. This is literally the week after the Lewis going to Ferrari news dropped, that there were some musings and rumblings that Christian Horner is apparently going to be under investigation by his own team because of these allegations. And no one knew about the allegations immediately, right? It was just kind of like, oh, what's going on? It was just that, oh, improper conduct within the team, right? And so everyone's just like, oh, it's probably sexual assault or sexual harassment. Some people were just thinking like, oh, maybe he's just like a bit too strict or firm with his employees and saying like, oh, like fix your fucking car, right? Like that whole thing, right?
If you got a problem.
But yeah, but the end of that week, we find out that he on that Friday was supposed to sit down in a deposition with Red Bull, right? Like internal, they were going to handle it internally, right? Yeah. And people were thinking news was going to come out that week. It didn't come out. So then the next week follows, and the next week is just more information kind of like passing through the filter, right, through the sieve.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, it's definitely sexual harassment. It's someone on the team. Apparently he offered £650,000 to the accuser to kind of make it go away. And so there's like all these different rumors. And even on top of this too, right, there's people saying that there's a power struggle within the Red Bull organization now ever since the passing of Dietrich Mateschitz. He's the original founder, owner of Red Bull Racing, right? And and actually within the Red Bull structure, I think I want to say he was like the guy, right? Because he partnered with the folks in Thailand who actually had the Red Bull formula, and then he was kind of like the marketing, branding, distribution part of it. But with all this stuff going on, like there's a lot going on. So I think what we need to do is just first set the stage and say this is wild, because in this day and age, to think that someone with such power, I guess it's not surprising because people with power tend to do this, but in this day and age where there's all kinds of ways and methods to record bad behavior and to let people know, about that bad behavior, it's shocking that he would even do this. And I get and first off, like even before that, right? I guess like step zero, like to the victim, I just hope that she's going to be okay through all this, because to come forward with these kinds of allegations, right, against someone of power, like she's gonna get, like her name will be dragged through the mud, right? Like, and it's unfortunate. Assuming that all this is true, right? Like when all the evidence comes out, and whatnot. I do not envy her for having to, file a lawsuit, claim that that there's sexual harassment, improper conduct within their workplace, be subjected to that, right? And then there's like a whole kind of quid pro quo element to this, right?
Yeah.
Dude, I've been rambling for a bit, but that's kind of what's going on. He has been accused of sexual harassment within the workplace to a junior female employee, and Red Bull is investigating internally.
Yeah. Not definitely not what you want on the tail of like arguably the most successful season that you've ever had as a team. And it does a lot of damage to, I mean, it does damage to the sport as well as to the Red Bull organization, because, well, I think ultimately, I think what is going to be the true test of, how the sport reacts to it is how that investigation goes, and, how the team or the sport as a whole handles it. I mean, Red Bull can have as many investigations as they want, but if they just say like, yeah, like we looked into it and it's fine, like there has to be if there's strong evidence for this, it's provable in court. Like there has to be some repercussions for this.
Absolutely,
because I mean, I think like some people's impulse is to think like, oh, this is like an attack of opportunity or whatever, like because he's a powerful person. But it's like, no, powerful men are just men.
Right. Yeah.
And men will do bad things, and those things need to be punished or corrected. There needs to be repercussions for your actions. It doesn't matter, who you are in whatever sense of power. There's no excuse. I wish, I wish more people in this country specifically would go along with that.
Yeah.
But unfortunately they don't. So it's good when we get a chance to see, you know, these things play out in such a way to where there are consequences.
Mm-hmm.
So I would say for me, obviously if this ends up being 100% true, the evidence is put out there, and it's pretty inconclusive, or it's pretty conclusive that like Christian Horner is responsible for doing this, then I personally, I mean, I think that he should, you know, that's not the conduct that you use as a racing director. So therefore, I think his job
Or in any space.
or in any space, really. Yeah. So I think he really shouldn't be keeping his job after that.
Yeah.
That's a fireable offense for a McDonald's employee, let alone.
Yeah, exactly.
Like,
that's why I'm like, dude.
yeah. For real. And yeah, and I think that like that is, I mean, that's going to be a big problem for Red Bull. I mean, they can do all they want and saying like, oh, you know, the team races won and we're all together. It's like, dude, it's like we're pretty much chopped the head off of the body, you know. So like you're going to have to sew on a new head Frankenstein style real quick, and figure out what you're going to do, because yeah, that's not acceptable. And I mean,
Yeah.
you know, the way I look at it too, like this could very well be like the pivotal moment for Red Bull to either, you know, completely implode in the next few years,
Mm-hmm.
or, you know, or just, you know, move into a new era of success, you know,
Yeah.
without Christian. Like it depends. Like depends on how it's going to happen, you know. A
Yeah.
lot of time, but I'd say most of the time when a team principal leaves or changes, they don't always have like the immediate success, you know, with a few exceptions, like Braun,
Yeah.
you know, Ross Braun. We're talking like one of the goats of team principals. Like Ross Braun is right up there. I mean, he was right there with Michael Schumacher through the Benetton
and the Ferrari days.
and the Ferrari and you know, Braun GP. So but yeah, I mean, I kind of want to know. I mean, I don't like this is just for my own curiosity, just to know that. Like, I really hope the details of what he said and did comes out, because like,
absolutely.
I want to know. Like, I mean, was it like a dick pic? Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, was it like?
I think at the very least it's that. Yeah.
You know, solicitation. Like, you know, they're like. I mean, it. Like, if this is behavior that's like this, like people need to know,
right,
like what he did, like what he's capable of, like, you know.
and the reason, and I'm glad you're saying that too, because the reason is like that's going to inform others, right, who think that behavior is okay, to be like, oh no, you can't do that, you know what I mean,
right?
Like there's consequences. Yeah, there's consequences. So it's really important that all this information comes out. And like again, like I really feel like gutted, like in advance for the victim, right, for for whoever's going through this, to say like come out and do all this stuff, because like your reputation is, you know what I mean, like the reason why people go through this stuff and they get huge payouts is because like more than likely they're not going to be like employed like within the same field, right? So that may have an impact on their income, right, on their ability to earn income, right? So then you need like you have to have some source of money to like live off of, right? And yikes, I don't know.
Yeah. Well, and you know, 650. So I just looked it up. 650,000 pounds is the equivalent of about $820,000.
Yeah, that was the amount of money Christian Horner and like I guess his legal group offered the victim to make it go away, like hush money, from what which the reports say.
I mean, honestly, in the world of hush money that has been paid to people for these sort of things, like that's like a drop in the bucket. Like it's like nothing. I mean, and honestly, like if you're talking about somebody who is, you know, taking the risk of putting themselves into the limelight in this way, because you know this person's going to get a lot of hate, because people love Christian Horner and people love Red Bull, and so they're going to come after her no matter what, even if it is true, even if she has the evidence. And so like, you know, you have to calculate that like emotional distress, difficult, like, being able to, like, people don't think about this. Like, if you come at the basically the head honcho, like your
Mhm.
main boss, with an allegation like this and
Yeah.
sue them, like, even though moralistically we feel like, yeah, that's the right thing you should do, you should
Mhm.
tell on the person, companies will look at that and just think like, oh well, she's
Mhm.
unreliable,
Mhm.
or like
Mhm.
what other secrets is she going to divulge if we, and so they take that into consideration, so it becomes really really hard to get a job after that.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. This is what I
So
mean. Like
yeah,
her potential to earn income is directly affected and impacted by this, right?
yeah,
So that's why these turn into like civil cases where there needs to be some kind of monetary restoration towards the victim,
yeah.
because like that's a huge problem people face. This is just it's just awful all around. Like why like dude, why would you like the quid pro quo thing is also so easy to just like point out and be like,
Mm,
so if I don't do this, am I gonna lose my job, right? And who knows? Like
yeah.
this person might like it's just
Well, and also too, think of it this way too, like the fact that they are already trying to offer them money, like offer
yeah,
her money,
right.
is pretty telling, because like if you didn't do anything
Yeah.
wrong and this person's like straight up lying to you, like Christian Horner has he has like the Red Bull legal team, basically at his disposal to come after somebody who makes false allegations. I mean, the libel laws in England are really intense. You know
Mm-hmm.
what I mean? Like you can sue somebody for libel and like, without, with and have a pretty aggressive legal team come after you.
Yeah.
The fact that, basically they're offering to pay her money already, even before, like that's a pretty telling thing, because
Yeah.
honestly, if Christian Horner didn't do anything wrong and nothing really,
He wouldn't be paying. Yeah.
wasn't
Yeah.
anything, like he wouldn't even bother trying to pay her. He would just be like, okay, well, you're fired, and if you try and come after me, like I have legal, precedence for this, because like he would know she doesn't have any evidence, so what's she gonna do?
Right.
But I think the fact that he's trying to pay her money, that's a big big tell.
Yeah.
So he did something. So
He
it's
did
just a matter
something.
of time
Yeah.
of what's going to happen. And I feel like if he's still allowed to be in the sport and still allowed to have his job after that,
Yeah.
ugh,
Blow me away. I think Red Bull as a brand, I don't know if they want to be if they want to touch this. I don't know if they want
no,
to be
I don't think
associated
they
with
do.
this.
No.
So I think they'd want to like divorce themselves from him as soon as possible, right? Because even though like Red Bull exists within the realm of like extreme sports and all this kind of
Mhm.
stuff, right? I could easily see an SNL skit where it's like, we're Red Bull, we're in F1, we're in Dakar, we're in rally racing, we fly planes, we have guys jump down from space, and we're in court for sexual harassment and civil lawsuits. You know what I mean? Like, and that
Mhm.
would stick. I think that would stick. I
They
think,
just have like those dudes who do the trial cycling like in the
yeah,
courtroom, like doing wheelies over the
yeah,
tables, and it just says Red Bull TV in the corner.
yeah,
Like,
yeah. It's like really it's messy. I don't think they would want to be associated with this, right? Because
well,
like this is
yeah,
rich energy type of energy. This is
yeah.
not Red Bull energy. You know what I mean?
This is
Like,
rich energy. Yeah. Yeah, I agree with you. I don't think they want to be involved. I don't think any company really wants to be in,
oh
and
yeah,
no company wants to be involved with that. But I think that
but who could?
there's certain levels of
Yeah,
whether or not they look on their return on investment, right? And I
right.
think like for the Red Bull organization, Christian Horner is incredibly valuable as a F1 team principal.
Mm.
You know what I mean? Like so valuable that they might try a way to keep the valuable parts of what he's
Oof.
contributing within the purview, and then but publicly make it look as though the situation's been resolved and everybody's okay with it. You know what I mean?
Oh man, that's
And
so
it
messy.
sucks. It is messy, but like think
It's
about, I
terrible.
mean, think of how much that's happened. Like that happens all the time,
It's
like with
true. Yeah.
companies, they pay the money, they, the employee is, gets paid the money, and then like the people who are, involved, just if they got enough money, if they're high enough status, you know nothing
Mm.
happens. It's unfortunate, but who knows? I mean like, we'll think of it this way, like think about this.
Mm.
What's the best case scenario for this? Like what would we want to see? I can tell you, like, I would
Mm.
like to see whoever this employee is, like
Mm.
like just to be sure to confirm, like,
Mm.
this actually happened.
Mm.
There's proof of it. We know that this is really going down. What's the best case scenario? I mean, to me, the best case scenario is that the employee who was harassed, she gets her, she gets her day in court. She, proves beyond shadow of a doubt that he did this behavior. Christian gets the repercussions, like he loses his job, and he has to, and maybe he finds some other way to make his money elsewhere as like an advisor, or maybe he writes a book or hits the circuit. Who knows? Like, I don't know what he could possibly do. Maybe he just becomes a stay at home dad, and just like hangs out with Jerry. I mean, so long as Jerry still wants to stay with him.
Yeah, that's another thing, dude. Like,
yeah. I mean,
it's like blows up your life, and oh my god, why would you do such a thing?
And I mean, for the sake of the Red Bull fans, then too, like, they get somebody else to come in and take over that position, who just picks up where Christian left off, and they just continue to have their high level of success.
Yeah.
So,
thank you for saying that. Are you finished with your thought? Because that just made something. Okay, that just made something else pop off in my mind. Like, I think the other thing here that blows me away is just how, as he was doing this, like, he was not thinking with the right head, and he just like completely put at risk all of the people who work with him, right, and their families and their livelihoods, right? Because I feel like something like this is big enough to like completely demolish like an enterprise, right?
Sure. Yeah.
Like, if you don't get it right? Like, let's say they bring in someone new next year, or like this season, right? Like, this season, I would assume would be perfectly fine. It's gonna be fine, like because the cars are already designed, they already have structures in place, right? But it's like, what happens like the next big like regulation change, right, where they need to like get key people, that kind of stuff, right? And they don't have like the right connections, right? Because the big guy who used to do all that stuff for us is gone, and that knowledge was never like sourced out or divvied out amongst different people for us to be able to keep this thing going, right? But yeah, it's just like a lot of unnecessary drama, and I'm sure there are probably people on the team too who are thinking about leaving, if not have gotten up to leave, to just say like, I don't want to work in an environment like this. Like, that happens too,
Yeah, well, I'd be willing to bet that there's probably other instances of this, but they never.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
This
is not the first time he's done this, right?
Yeah,
I would wager. It's a bummer.
It is a bummer.
Yeah.
Let's move on to the spotlight of the episode. And our one of my favorite thing from last year. And I'm really excited to do it again. It is our second annual 2024 F1 livery fashion review. So
review.
Yeah, cue the fashion music right about here, and I guess let's get into this, but let's before we get into like our individual, like, talk about each car and do our individual top breakdowns. I want to talk about the whole livery thing as a whole this year, and the big thing that people have been talking about, and that is pretty much a lack of paint. And what's funny about that, though, is the first half of the livery reveals were all about lack of paint, and then literally all the ones that came after it were like, oh, look, it's paint. Like, so suddenly everybody stopped because they realized, oh yeah, the other half of the grid is totally like doing fine painting their cars and not having any issues here. So Iddris, remind us again, why are some of these teams not putting paint on the carbon fiber? Like, what's the reasoning behind this?
So their paint, right, is an object and a material that has weight and mass, right? So when you apply it, you're adding extra weight or mass to your vehicle, and weight can help you in certain scenarios, right? But you're just adding more weight that you need to carry with your forward momentum or your performance from your engine, right? So you want to remove as much weight as possible, and some teams have decided, let's remove paint, because that's going to be the thing that saves us a lot of time on per lap. And I don't think we're in that era anymore. I cannot imagine that, shaving off like paint from like the engine intake, right, air intake on the top portion of the car,
Mm.
backwards towards the rear wing, that saves you enough like weight, and it saves you enough weight that you gain in performance. If
Right.
you are, then there's something else wrong with your car. Like there's a much deeper problem, right? That means your packaging probably isn't right somewhere.
Right.
Um,
Right.
that's, I feel like that's what you should probably be paying attention to, or
Mm.
maybe having like a shorter side pod versus a longer side pod, right? Because you don't want to induce like eddy currents or dirty air or turbulence further downstream. So things like that would be the thing to focus on. But hey,
Mm.
I'm not the CFD guy, and I don't
Right.
work within the world of Formula One. I just observe.
Yeah. So my thought about that, honestly, is like, I mean, I have a couple thoughts about this.
Hmm.
One, the most of the cars that were at the top of the field all of last year had lots of paint.
Yeah.
They had the most amount of paint.
Thank you.
Like Ferrari
Thank
was
you.
up there; they're still mostly covered in red. Red Bull, even though it looks pretty dark, it's still got that dark blue paint on it, so
Yeah.
it's definitely a painted car. And even the
Mercedes.
Mercedes, I think they were still painting it black. I don't know if it was
Hmm.
too much carbon. I mean, I can't remember, but like Aston
There
Martin, same thing.
there are a couple of bits of black of carbon, exposed carbon on the
Yeah.
Mercedes, but not too much.
And here's the other thing to think about. And I know I definitely know this is probably calculated in their calculations, but like just from my whole brain, what I'm thinking of is like carbon fiber, right? It's fiber. So it's woven carbon
Hmm.
fibers that are woven together and then cured in like a rosin, right?
Hmm.
Um I guess my thought is I wonder how much if they're gonna cure the carbon fiber in rosin to enough to where they can smooth over the surface to it not being a textured surface or surface,
Hmm.
then they might as well just paint it. You know what I mean? Because
Hmm.
like you're already having like a material, like a top coat of
Yeah.
material. Because like I can only imagine that a textured surface flying through the air is going to create more drag than a completely
Mm.
glossed over smooth surface on a microscopic level. You know what I
Ooh,
mean?
ooh,
You know what I'm saying?
and welcome to Idris's Tech Corner. So I guess it depends
Right.
on what's going on, because within the field of fluid dynamics, you have what is called the boundary layer, right? Which is where you have like the free flowing stream, right? Which would be your fluid air, right? Your air is flowing over. There's a certain point where you can zoom in at like a micro level, and you
Mm.
see how that fluid is attaching to the surface of the vehicle. So it depends. It might be in the wash. I really don't know enough about the boundary layer of the interaction between the air on the free flow stream, and how that interacts with the actual body of the carbon
Mm.
fiber. Um, it could be, if the boundary layer is large enough, it won't make a difference, right? If it's actually over it, where like it
Yeah.
doesn't matter, it's just going over that. But if it's like closer to the surface, then yeah, then I could see it posing an issue. But I think that's why it doesn't matter if it's woven and it's just kind of exposed, because you
Yeah. Well,
such a
and I'm
speed
sure
of it.
I'm sure they put those calculations in place, but
Yeah.
I mean, even still, like, I mean, clearly, like Ferrari's never really had too much of a problem with it. So, and they've been pretty fast. But I guess hey, well, while we're on that subject,
Yeah.
why don't we just go through each car really quick and just give our sort of impressions, and
Yeah.
then at the end of it, we will give our top 10 lists, or I
Yeah.
guess our list of uh, who's best. So I'd like to while we're on that subject, let's talk
Hmm.
about the Ferrari.
Yeah. Okay.
So yeah, what's your well? Give me their. Um,
I like it. I like it a
okay.
lot. It just looks like a giant like lollipop. I love the cherry red. I love that that's back. I love how the white is interlaced on the side pods of the car there. And they've got like this weird like star effect, it looks like. Um Let me pull up a bigger, better picture of it.
Mhm. Yeah, I'm pulling up some bigger images too.
Oh yeah.
You said the star effect.
Well, it's like it's actually okay, so where the Shell logo is on the side pod, if you're looking at it not head on, it looks like the sponsors in the white labeling there, in the white color, white font, are like stars, and that looks really cool. I think it's like Ray-Ban, Siva, and then someone else, but
Hmm.
I think it looks really cool. The only thing with the Ferrari that I would like to change is the swoop, right? Like from the air intake on the side pod going down. Um, that inward face, that vertical face that's on the inside there, right behind the front wheel,
Mm,
is all black. That would have been cool to see it all red, but
mm,
I like what I'm seeing here. It feels like a return to form. While I did like that kind of like almost purplish red from a couple seasons ago, I do like that they've gone back to this. This feels good, and I see more yellow, and I'm happy about that. What about you?
mm. Well, when I first saw this, the first thing that popped into my head was ba da ba ba ba.
Yeah.
Um, because I saw the yellow, and I immediately thought golden arches.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and honestly, like the more and what's in it, like even with their outfits too,
Mm-hmm.
like the racing outfits, I think it's because it's red and then the yellow are stripes, like a stripe. So it just makes me think of like the golden arches.
Mm-hmm.
If they had done a thing where maybe it was like kind of like how McLaren does it. It's like sort of an angular point that cuts across the guitar or the car that then like they
Mm-hmm.
do that yellow, or like remember they did in Monza last year, like the back of the
Yes.
airbox had that yellow accent.
Mm-hmm.
If they did something like that, it would have made more, would have
More
hit more. But
impact.
like,
Yeah.
yeah, just the yellow and the red as stripes to me, it screamed McDonald's right
Mm.
out the gate for me. Like I was that was my thought. But now, what's funny is that looking at compared to the Shell logo, having the Shell logo next to it,
Mm-hmm.
like you see that sort of symmetry of color. I think the colors are balanced well. They did that thing where it's like you have your full red is your main color, right?
Mm-hmm.
Your black is your kind of secondary, and then you have two accent colors with the yellow and the white.
Yeah.
So
It's
I also
clean.
I'm gonna say this too. I'm glad they painted the wheel covers because
Yes.
I'm tired of those just being black for
Yeah.
black's sake.
Yep.
And
I think it's fun.
yeah, it is fun. I think, but you know what? Here's the thing. Like me, I don't. I think last year's car. I think the livery technically looked better to me.
Mm.
However, I will say this, and this is a maybe it's the new thing, a predictor for me, is that the uglier the car, the faster they tend to be. Um, and so because the really pretty cars from last year, with the exception of the Aston Martin, were very not very fast.
Yeah.
So
I mean, look
so
at the
yeah,
McLaren. That
yeah,
was
right.
awful.
Yeah, that was awful, but then they immediately started coming back around. So, I'm thinking this one's going to be a pretty good contender. So,
You keep saying I'm thinking, and I just want to say Arby's every time. I'm thinking Arby's.
I'm thinking Arby's. We have the meats. Oh. I mean, Haas could take the Arby's
Oh my!
sponsorship. It's red and white already. So.
Let's go right. We're talking about it. We're talking Arby's. Chipotle, Haas. These are names
Mhm.
that kind of go together. What
Mhm.
what what food is coming to mind, or what is coming to mind when you think Haas?
Honestly, I look at that Haas car and I'm thinking like tennis shoe company. Is what it looks like to me.
Skechers.
It's giving me sportswear. Um,
Mm.
but here's the thing. Here's
Like
what I will
moisture
say.
wicking polo.
Yeah. It's just like it might as well say Under Armour. But here's what I'm gonna say though. If you compare this livery to last year's,
Yeah.
it definitely looks the Haas logo is the biggest improvement on the side
Oh
of the
yeah.
car.
By far.
Because last year it was very stagnant. It was just very square. But like with this one, they really stretched it out. They swooped it to go along with
Mhm.
the side pod. And if I'm not mistaken, is it slightly more metallic than it was than last year? Because I think it's more of like a silver color than like completely white. It's like kind of like a white pearl color, Um,
Yeah.
I think it
It
looks
does.
much better.
Yeah, it's a much better livery versus last year. Yeah, I like the car better. I don't know. For me though, it doesn't feel super memorable. You know what I mean?
No, no.
It's not giving me rich energy vibes.
No, it looks like the livery that a video game would create for like
Yeah.
for like a competitor team, or like maybe your first livery for your car, whatever.
Or for your
Yeah,
player character, and then you pick
yeah,
like the nickname the game calls, like, hey Spider, or the kid, right?
Right. No, you know what it is?
Prodigy.
Yours is like the one that you start with is like, it's some fun color. Like it's
Yeah.
blue or whatever, it's all like light and like happy.
Yeah.
It's like blue and white, right?
Yeah.
And then this is the villain car that shows up because it's all red and black. And like, the driver's name is like Spike.
Like
or something like that,
Klaus Berthold.
Klaus Spike, the Spike. It's just like, it's like, I will kill you on the racetrack.
So,
it's like Malfoy driving it,
why don't you go back to Iowa and race your tractors, your John Deeres?
I've been in this sport for 5 years. I know the track better than you.
Do you know what they call me? They call me the Wonderkind.
It is nice to see though, and like, hey, a little shout out for some American pride. It's nice to see that they put the American flag full color on the front nose rather than just like that weird sort of like monochromatic colored flag that they put on the side. That always gave off like Blue Lives Matter sort of vibes to me. You know what I mean? So like, it's nice to see like the Stars and Stripes actually being in color and on the front of the car. It's like, okay, no, this is American team. It's American car. Let's do it. No more Russian colors or anything like that.
Yeah,
so,
I feel that.
Yeah. I give it a solid. It's a C minus.
It's a car.
Like it's a car. Yeah. It's a car.
That's what the C stands for. Car minus.
Car minus.
So, let's go. Let's do a little bit of ping pong here. So we just talked about Haas. Let's just go to the one I think that probably shocked us the most.
Okay.
Let's talk about Steak. What like?
Okay.
I gotta say,
wait. Steak, kick, dude, or
it's
like which is it?
Steak is the parent company. They own Kick. But then Steak got into some issues because apparently they weren't allowed to operate within certain European regions or whatever. The green card, the Sauber, right?
Right.
I gotta say, personally, I love it. Also, I love that their like livery reveal video was like super 1999. I don't know, were you getting those vibes from it? It just felt like all it was missing was just Darude Sandstorm playing in the background during
Yes.
They're just like, this is the future.
This is the future. Yeah, no, the entire vibe of this car. I'm sorry, I keep saying guitars.
Hey.
Because I talk about aesthetics for guitars all the time at work too. And like for me, cars and guitars kind of blend together. That'd
be a great podcast. Guitars and Cars starting summer 2024.
I can 100% do that. I can talk about those all day. It gives me cyberpunk vibs, and you can definitely get that with the neon surrounding. Like it's very Tron.
Yes.
If their color was like George Russell teal blue, then it would 100% be like the Tron F1 team. I definitely I'm a little I think the only thing about this, there's only two aspects of this car that kind of give me pause. As far as the livery goes. So the first being right where the engine cover is, where the green is.
Yes.
It's very kind of dant.
Yep.
You know what I mean? It's very angular. It's not flowing in this way that feels really nice. Like if they had kind of flowed it sort of down and back, but I guess that's sort of angular nature of it is them trying to go for that sort of cyber, kind of vibe, the other thing that gives me pause too is just the wheel covers. I like them, but I also like for a half second, I thought that they were going to be one of those ones where as they're spinning, it shows an image of like somebody moving or dancing or something, which honestly would be a perfect opportunity.
It'd be so fun.
And somebody could easily do that. They could easily print out a pattern that does that. But I think that honestly, the whole thing for me is that what makes up for any of its shortcomings in my brain is the fact that it's neon green.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, I'm always going to side with a bold choice. You know what I mean? I'm always going to be with a bold choice.
I'm with you. I think one of the I'm with you. What I would like to see more of is more interesting like shapes with the neon green. I think the neon green is what makes this car just really cool. Yeah. But like just like you said, like the engine intake, just the I know exactly what you're talking about. It's like it doesn't feel inspired, right? It doesn't like it feels like the green is just kind of put in places like and here and here and here and here, and it doesn't really have like I don't know, doesn't feel super fun. Also, the K on the nose looks like the Kickstarter K. and I can't
Yeah.
get over that.
Yeah. No, well that gives me MS DOS a little bit. Um, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But also too, yeah, that if you look at the sides, there's green stripe that comes up the nose. There's a green stripe that goes down and flows underneath the side pod, and
Yeah.
then it's just bam, bam, bam.
It's a different
So
it's a different art style and art direction, and it feels like kind of mashed together.
yeah, yeah. But you know what? But like honestly, yeah, it's green, and green has made a triumphant return to the grid, and
Mhm. I'm all for it.
you know I'm for it. I'm gonna, you know, they've had a weird rocky start,
Mhm.
but yeah, hopefully I guess Sauber, Kick Sauber, Stake F1, whatever.
Just Sauber. Just Sauber.
I'm just gonna call it, yeah, it's just
Mhm.
gonna be Sauber. Unless David Croft tells me otherwise.
So let's
Yeah.
keep the green train going then, baby.
Okay. Yeah. So
What do you,
next up then would that be Aston Martin?
oh yes.
Oh,
Let's
that classic, yeah.
let's talk about that hunter green. So what do you think about this one, Gabe?
So honestly, it's hard to improve on perfection. Um and so pretty much
Kobe. Just like
pretty much. I mean,
and Gabe
it was
for
perfect.
3.
It was perfect last year, and this just continues to be pretty perfect this year. And honestly, my favorite little thing about this, my two favorite things about the Aston Martin car. One is I love the yellow detail on the wheel covers.
Mm-hmm.
It's so simple and small, but like it just looks very classy. It looks very fast and awesome.
Mm-hmm.
And also, I kind of love how it's like kind of green and black, and you get these sort of unison bits of yellow, and there's just that little pop of red and blue with the Valvoline logo.
Yeah.
And there's just the contrast on that is just really, really nice. I mean, it's spectacular. You know, black wing, black wings, plenty of sort of black trim, but you just have this nice big old smear of like Aston Martin green, which honestly I think they have a specific name for the color,
like hunter green, like British racing green, right?
it's not British racing green.
VRB?
It might be
Or
a
BRG?
variation of it, but I think it's like I think it's a specific color.
Yeah.
I don't know, I don't know what they call it, but I mean it definitely has like a, you know, a code. You know, maybe it's just Aston green, you know, but like
it's nice, man.
Yeah, it is very, very nice. And that's one thing that I do enjoy about a lot of the British racing green variants. It's like there's been so many different ones, right? Like Lotus has that kind of like yellowy kind of like green color. Bentley is like really dark green. And then you have like Jaguar, which is also kind of a darker green, which is like a little bit lighter. And then Aston kind of has this sort of, it's sort of like a frosty sort of like hue to it. It's like a little more frosty. It's a little lighter, it's a little more neutral.
Yeah.
But just really spectacular. So
it's a very I look at it and it's a very like sophisticated green. That's what I get from it.
Yes.
It's very like mature, and I really like that. And it's like, and they're not doing too much with the colors, right? It's just like that nice like pearlescent green almost. Then it's like some beauty, like some nice black to kind of wrap it and kind of draw your eyes to like the engine covers. I think it's beautiful.
Yeah. But Aston Martin aesthetically has always had some really, I mean, really aesthetically nice looking cars, and they're kind of sticking to their Aston Martin heritage, and I'm all for this. I think it is a classy looking car, and it's perfect. It's perfect. I thought that's wonderful.
I think it's beautiful.
All right, what's next? What's on the chopping block?
All right, so we've talked about some real nice ones. Let's reach to the bottom of the bargain bin here. And let's just kick it off with McLaren, because these guys just know how to give us consistency when it comes to just some like mid liveries. Like, I mean, in short, I think it's, for me personally, I look at it and I'm just like, okay. I think what throws me off is this whole like, and I don't know why they like doing this, where they have like the triangle of color that meets, like the apex of that meets at the opening of the halo. It just, I don't like how that looks. It just looks odd to me. I think they've gotten. I think they did a much better job with like the sponsor placement this year, but I don't know. It doesn't feel inspired.
So here's the thing. This is what I'm gonna say. This looks better than last year's did.
100%.
And it's because they simplified some of the colors. They took that blue out.
Yeah.
And so automatically a two-tone color scheme is going to be easier to wrap your head around than just like multiple. And if you see what they did for their IndyCar and what they did for some of their other racing series, they're kind of they like, especially the IndyCars. The IndyCars are harkening back to the Marlboro logos. And I think F1, I think that's what they were trying to do. I think they were trying to kind of go for that, but you can tell that they didn't want to put too much paint on the car. And so they subdued it. Like if that sort of angular gradient, on the back of the car had like extended downward and a little more forward, and then the other angle like started where the halo like is, like right where the base of the halo, and like just kind of cut down across. Like if they had added more of those orange, if they had more of the papaya, I think this would be better. But also this McLaren has the same problem that it did last year, and that is sponsors and more sponsors and other sponsors and this sponsor, and don't forget that one.
I mean, but what blows me away about the sponsor thing is like the Kingdom of Bahrain owns you, right? Like, do we need to have all the sponsor logos on here?
It's so much. It is so much. It's too much. It's really busy. The chrome logo wheel covers, like it's clever, but it doesn't translate on track because you don't, they're spinning so much faster that it, I just, it's better, but it's not as good as it could be. And, honestly, like I wish they would just use that one that they did at Monaco last year. Because that looked so good, that like, Marlboro, like sort of tribute one that they did. Because this just doesn't have enough paint. It's too busy. But hey, like I said earlier in the episode, that the ugliest cars tend to be the faster ones. So hopefully this is a sign of good things from McLaren.
So no, I feel
what are your thoughts?
I'm with you. You made some really good points here. Just simply removing the blue, it looks like that's all they've done. It just feels a little uninspired in my opinion. I think McLaren always does a great job with their one-off liveries that I wish that they would use more frequently, right? Like their Triple Crown livery this past season at Monaco was beautiful with that light baby blue. Excellent. And the Shell, I think the Shell sponsor was there too. That looked nice. Or am I mixing up with Williams? I think no, the Triple Crown livery was McLaren. But there was a special one-off livery that Williams did last season too. That was really nice. But so McLaren was not the real bargain bin grab here. The real bargain bin grab is Alpine, and that's who we're going to talk about.
Oh yeah.
How like all right, let me start with this. Why do you tease me and showing me images of like pink camo for weeks? And then you pull the tarp over. That's exactly it. There was like I don't see a smidge of pink camo anywhere. Was the pink camo supposed to be like, oh, you don't know what's underneath? We don't know what it's gonna be because it's camouflage.
Yeah, I have no idea. I feel like maybe they were like still in process of figuring out what they were gonna do, and then
it's awful.
Like at the last minute, they're just like, no camo. Maybe, I mean, did people freak out at the pink camo? Were they like upset? Like, was this like the fans were just like, you better not paint that car pink or else, bleh, and then like they just didn't do it? Like, I think like Alpines looked the best when they had a lot of pink or a lot of blue in.
I think the best Alpine was the Alpine they raced in 2022. This is just like, what is this?
Yeah, it's just it looks like a black car that they only have the paint on that's relevant to the logos of the like sponsors. Like it doesn't look like it doesn't, you know what I mean? It's like it looks like it was just a black car, and then they put like logo sponsors on it. There's just like hardly anything there isn't really anything to latch on to. Like you
Yeah.
sort of like, yeah, there's the pink kind of, but like at the same time, it's like, I mean, and apparently it looks like, I mean, looking to me, just looking at some of these photos, it looked like there were like two different variations. So there's like one picture that has the like down the nose it's pink, and then on the other picture down the nose it's blue.
Yeah.
So like I think they're trying to do like a half and half yin yang kind of thing. um and this ain't it, you know what I mean? Like it also, it's hard to recognize this as an Alpine. It just looks like a BWT,
Yeah.
like as like the,
As his title sponsor. Yeah. So yeah, as a team, right? Yeah. So I'm looking at the wheel covers, and they're painted in camo, right? Like you have blue camo on the front wheel covers and pink on the rear wheel covers. So that 10 times fast.
okay.
But like, I don't know. I was just thinking here for a second. This car feels to me like the identity of Alpine. They don't know what they're doing, and they don't know what they are, and I think that's clearly evident in the car here. What is it?
Yeah,
I don't
it's
know.
like they're trying to decide. They don't know.
And it's also really hard to like really distinguish like the key features of their aero package, right? Like looking at their side pods, like it's kind of hard because I need to shine like a light directly on it because it's just black on black, and I can't discern anything from anything else.
Yeah. No, and the black background and everything. It's really hard to tell. And like honestly, if you're trying to be like, oh well, our car is black because we're sinister and we mean business. It's like,
well, yeah, Mercedes did it way better. Like several years ago,
right? yeah. And there's like, it's not who does it better, but who does it best. It's like, no, it's who does it better. And Mercedes definitely did that better.
I don't want to waste more breath on that. That is I'm so disappointed in that one.
Yeah, it was a nothing. I saw all the pink camo. I'm like, oh, you're gonna paint the whole thing pink camo, and then nope.
What a letdown.
They're not gonna do that. They're not gonna do that.
Yeah. So maybe to wash our palette.
Yes.
Right? I'm gonna clean our palette. With some ginger after that.
Right.
Let's talk about VCARB. Visa Cash App Racing Bulls.
Visa Cash App Racing Bulls. What can I say? Really, really solid livery. It honestly, obviously, people made the comparison back to the Toro Rossos from the 2018 season, 2017 season, which I think is a fair comparison because it pretty much said, I thought those liveries were really cool back then too. I think the thing that really does it for me about this one, especially if you look at the side profile, it is very 90s.
Yeah.
In like the best way possible. Like you just have like angular stripe accented with red, like straight stripe down the back, like the big old Visa logo on the side. This is a really good looking car. And I think that the blue has that sort of slightly metallicness to it.
Yes.
Which is just
character.
Dope. And then even the Red Bull logos, like the Red Bull and the Visa, it's like silver. I'm into it. This is a pretty spectacular looking car. And then those red rim like rings and the red on the brake duct, like things. Just I'm into it. This is perfect.
I mean, folks, I'll just say it. By far the best livery of this season. Like this is beautiful. It is it is just hitting on everything I want. This makes me feel like we're back in like the rainbow that was the 2018 season, right? Where you had like the yellow Renault and like the metallic looking Toro Rossos. This is Visa Cash App. You guys, you were ridiculed for your name, but let me tell you what you're bringing to the game. You're bringing in a nice livery, and it's like excellent. I'm so excited to see this on track. And I gotta say, VCARB is I'm really supporting this team this year.
Oh yeah,
with Danny and Yuki, and like their team kits look nice. Like except for the polo that they had Liam Lawson wearing in that picture. That was not the red horizontal line was not nice. But
no,
in general, just nice.
Yeah, this also pulls a really nice trick too from the side profile. it's very simple looking. Like you get Honda, you got Visa, you got a little bit of Cash App, and you got the Hugo, and then right down the nose.
Oh
The
yeah.
nose has that perfect like 90s, like here's where we stack all the sponsors in this nice
Hmm.
flat space.
Yeah.
And they're all just perfectly balanced,
Mm.
even laid out. It is, oof, yeah, it's a spectacular looking thing.
Oh, it's.
I'm going to be really upset if the camera does not. I'm hoping these guys are up at the top because I want to see this
Mhm.
most of the time on the footage on the TV.
You
Like,
know,
I don't want to be staring at Alpines.
yeah. I'm. You know what? Thinking about it, the reason I really like Ferrari's candy red, right?
Mm,
It pops, right? There's that like you
yeah,
look at it and you're just like, ooh, it's fun, right? Like I wanna just like bite into like that cherry red apple.
right,
And then this gives me the same feeling as the Ferrari, but it's blue.
right,
It's a
right.
candy blue. I don't know what
Yeah,
the like it's just so fun to look at.
it'll be easy to distinguish on track. Unlike
Yes.
last year where they had that weird like muted matte colors. Like, can we also say too? Like, can we get claps to uh um Racing Bulls, Visa Cash App, VCARB for putting gloss paint on a car
Yeah.
again,
Yeah, it's
please. Claps for that. Because seriously, like I'm tired of this matte paint that just looks flat, non-reflective surface. These things are gonna look so spectacular
yeah.
around Singapore.
Yeah.
These night
Oh,
circuits with the lights. Oh, dude.
yes.
It's
Mm.
gonna give it's giving me everything.
Mhm.
I'm yes, 100%. VCARB, you're getting it. And we're gonna
Yeah.
and you know what? Because their logo is so good, VCARB, I'm gonna make it stick. It's gonna
Mhm.
stick. It's gonna
Yeah,
be the
VCARB
VCARB.
VCARB is a good name, honestly. That's like I know everyone we were hey, us included, we were ridiculing them. We were like, what the heck
Hmm.
is this? But if they perform like they have with delivery, oh,
Yep.
then all will be
Yep.
forgiven. All
Oh
sins will
yeah.
be forgiven.
Yep. All right. Well, next in line, before we get down to last year's sort of well, I guess the two top of the crop, I guess you could say, outside of Ferrari. Let's talk about Williams really
Mm.
quick. Um Only because I don't really think there's too much to say about Williams.
Yeah,
Um
I'm in the
it
same
doesn't
boat.
look bad. But and I think the reason why it doesn't look bad is that because it's not as much black as it is dark blue.
Mm-hmm.
Um, they still do the Duracell battery on the top, which I think
Hmm.
is still
It's
always
cute.
is
It's
a
great.
clever choice. It's
Hmm.
that's good. Um, it's got some good angles to it, but and also having the darker colors, the darker shades of blue, kind of keep it looking a little more unison. It doesn't not super busy, but at the same time, it's like it doesn't really feel like it's doing anything too bold. It's not pulling any too bold of a choice. Like it just looks like a more refined version of last year's car to me.
Hmm.
You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah. It's a bit more mature than what we saw last year. I think the blues are a bit more subdued, and I think that helps to have that differentiation with the two
Mm.
tone blue. But yeah, I'm
I
with you.
like
I
the
think it's a
wheel.
nice. Oh yeah,
Yeah,
go ahead.
I was just gonna say I like the wheel covers better than last year
Yes.
too. So
Yeah. Also, there's a nice strip of red that kind of traces from the front of the nose of the car all the way to the back,
mhm.
or it kind of disappears in the center, but kind of reappears in the back. I like
Yeah,
that. I think that's a really nice touch.
yeah,
Um,
it's very simple.
yeah,
I
uh,
like it.
yeah, it's clean.
It's clean, but I'd say mostly middle of the road, but
Yeah.
very clean. We'll see what it looks like on track, but um. Well, next, Idris, let's say, do you want to talk about the more interesting one, or the one that really has not changed that we're just going to have to talk about other things about it?
Well, all right, we're gonna have a little Dora the Explorer interactive moment with you, the listener, right now. So, which one is the fun one that we're gonna talk about between Mercedes and Red Bull? You're right. It is Mercedes. Which one's the same as it was last year? Uh-huh. I think so too.
Let's pull out the map. No, um,
Backpack.
backpack. Yeah.
So yeah,
Zero side pods. Zero side pods. Zero side
dude.
pods.
Okay, so it's actually really funny that we left Mercedes and Red Bull for the last two because,
Yeah.
as you will all recall, Mercedes, when they started off this new regulation era, um, they went with the zero side pod concept and they clung onto that thing for dear life. They're like, nope, we're staying on. We're gonna make it work, baby. Right? But
Right.
weren't able to make it work, and they have now gone towards a more open wider side pod concept, right? So it's kind of shying away from the blobfish that it was. Whereas
Mhm.
Red Bull seems to have adopted some elements of that into their new
Yep.
car. So we're not really going to talk about like the car like itself, but that is something interesting to know if you do take a look at the Red Bull livery.
Mm.
Their ducks are little different than what we saw last season, which is cool though. I'm from like a tech nerd standpoint. That's really cool because this shows that Mercedes was onto something, right?
Mhm.
But in
Yeah.
the Adrian Newey school of thought, get the chassis and the aerodynamics for that element down first, right?
Yeah.
Figure that out, show success, and then make
Mm.
incremental improvements to where we can start incorporating other things that we think will give us significant gains, right?
Right.
I think I can understand his thought process here just because I'm reading his book, right? How to Build a
Yeah.
Car. Excellent book. Highly recommend reading it.
Mm. It's on my list for Audible.
Yeah, it's a good one. I'm almost done, so I will give a full review when I am done. But yeah, just looking at the Red Bull, the Red Bull's the same, right? I mean, like let's just come out and say it. It is iconic at this point. And I think actually I don't know. Would you say it's iconic, Gabe? I should ask that question. Do you think we're at a
I
point
think
where
it
it's becoming
is.
iconic?
I think it is because I think it's recognizable. If you see that car, you know exactly who was driving it. Um, like it's just like the Sebastian Vettel era Red Bulls. You see any of those
Mhm.
Sebastian era Red Bulls, you see that livery, and you're like, oh, yep, that's a Sebastian Vettel Mark Webber Red Bull. And then with the matte finish, kind of neutralized blue, you see that, and you're like, yep, no, that's Max Verstappen era. Um, so going back to the Mercedes though, really quick, I think honestly, this is one of the best liveries I think they've done.
Mm.
Particularly because I think they've struck that balance of the best of both worlds.
Mhm.
I think like literally and metaphorically, they have returned to being a proper silver arrow in a sense that like the
Yeah.
silver streak kind of down creates an arrow
Mhm.
like shape,
Yeah.
and it's silver. And then you have that black, which is just like looks so good on this car. I think the proportions are balanced really well. You get little spots of red, the perfect imbalance of those blue, the little kind of Mercedes stars sort of spattering on the back. Like no surface on this car is put to waste. Like
Mhm.
everything feels really nice and smooth and put together. And
Yeah.
also, it reminds me of the Mika Hakkinen era McLarens with the black and the silver, except they had the red. That was those are really, really iconic looking cars. And I think Mercedes has sort of kind of paid a little bit of tribute to that.
Yeah.
And you know what's funny about this though, looking at this car too, and I'm just projecting and I hope I'm right. I mean, I feel like this could be a Lewis Hamilton eighth season, like eighth, world championship winning car.
You think so?
Um,
I mean,
I
because they
mean,
put
I just
performance in the name.
hell yeah, that's all you needed.
I thought that
No,
was so
just
funny.
I mean, honestly though, just looking at it, it's just like it just feels like it's just got
It's got
it's
good
got a little
stance.
hint of everything that
Yeah.
Hamilton was and
Mhm.
is with the Mercedes team.
Yeah.
The spattering of silver, the
Mhm.
black, just the really, really intense looking thing. And hopefully they've gotten on top of their aerodynamics because I tell you, if this thing is fast, if it's
Dude.
even close to being a Red Bull,
Yeah.
I
The
mean,
and the thing.
like imagine the story about that too. Though
Mhm.
Hamilton leaves Mercedes, gives them like one more championship, and gets
Mhm.
his eighth championship, and then just goes to Ferrari on a high, and
Mhm.
it's just like, okay, guys, what can we do? You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Yeah.
Like that would be spectacular.
Yeah. I love it.
We'll know when preseason testing comes around and that
Mhm.
first race, but yeah, man. I mean, I can feeling as optimistic as I can,
Yeah.
because like this looks more like a traditional car. The zero side pods obviously just was not working for Mercedes. They just could
Mhm.
not get to click. But
Mhm.
also they did that thing that Hamilton was complaining about. They moved the driver position back again.
Mhm.
So it shouldn't feel like he's on his toes as much. So hopefully he'll have more confidence in the car and, we'll see what happens. But
Yeah, absolutely.
yeah.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think at first I saw it and I didn't have an emotion at first, and
Hmm.
I think it's because the renders. Because I was looking at all this on Instagram
Mm.
sorry, on Instagram on my phone, but
Right.
looking down and actually seeing it like on a nice display, yeah, it is really nice. I
Yeah.
think what helps is also seeing when you take a look at the pictures from the press conference with the Mercedes drivers and
Mhm.
team personnel.
Yeah.
You can see like because you can see like the light is actually like reflecting off the faces of the people there. So this is like nice natural lighting, or better lighting, right? And then you can see the car in all its glory right there. It's a
Yeah.
much better way to see the car and its livery and its details, and it's
Mhm.
really really nice looking. And
Yeah.
I feel you. I do like that it is now a true silver arrow, right? The name makes sense. Um, but yeah, I'm with you. This could be. I love what the livery does for the story of Mercedes, right?
Yeah.
For where the team is going into this season, and yeah, I'm with you. That would be a great way to button up a relationship
Yeah.
that has just been so monumental in the sport and influential. Going back to the Red Bull real quick, I wanted to
Mhm.
say that um, because I asked if it was iconic. It is iconic. I'm with you. It's definitely
Mhm.
iconic. But what's funny is that Red Bull definitely has two iconic liveries, right? There's this one, and then you have like the Sebastian Vettel era with like the more purple hued blue,
Mhm.
right? And
Yeah. Purple metallic. Yeah.
yeah, I wonder what people's thoughts on that are and how they stack up, right? If people find this to be the more attractive one, or the purple one to be the more
You know,
attractive.
yeah, well, I guess it depends on the era you entered. I would be willing
Sure.
to say, I mean, for me, I love the Vettel era stuff better just because I just think it looks better. I like the metallic paint a lot better. But honestly, the best that this era of Red Bull has ever looked is when they did the practice session or the testing session. They ran it in white.
Mm-hmm. Oh,
Um,
or the special
dude,
livery that they do in Suzuka. Oh,
mhm. Yeah, like the white Red Bull livery looked so spectacular. And I think they should have just done that. I think they forego the blue and just go with white, or
yeah.
maybe do white and then have blue around the edges of the like Red Bull, like in between the yellow and the white around the actual Red
Mm-hmm.
Bull itself. Um, or maybe put a blue stripe down it or something. I think they're overdue for a rebrand a little bit, a
Yeah,
refresher.
I think so.
Because this is to me, this is just getting really stale. It's just
Yeah.
looking really stale to me. It just like it's just mix it up. Like even in the Vettel era, they switched it up a little bit a few
Every
times. Like
yeah, and I'm pulling up the four like 2010 through 2013. I think
yeah,
2013 was like peak. Like
yeah,
2013 just looks so nice for that car. But I'm with you. I think they're due for a little bit of a refresh. Just that purple is so nice. It's
yeah.
interesting, you know.
Yeah.
Um,
It was cool at first. Like it's
yeah.
when they first put it out, I was like, oh, that's kind of interesting. It's all matte. Like that looks pretty cool.
Mm,
But now at this point, it's just like we've had it for so long
yeah.
and it just feels like unless you're a Red Bull fan, it
Yeah.
feels really uninspiring. It feels kind of just and
Yeah.
honestly, like even the Red Bull logo itself on the air duct, like
Hmm.
why isn't that bigger? Like it looks like if you look at a side profile, like it just looks
Yeah.
so small and shriveled up and like, I don't
It's more like
yeah.
red calf. I think what they should do, in my opinion, is like take the approach that Toro Rosso did. I think it was 2017
Yeah.
of utilizing like the actual Red Bull cans as the inspiration
Mhm.
for the livery. I remember seeing that and thinking like that looks way better than the actual main Red Bull team livery.
Mhm.
Right?
Yeah.
It's in the name. Just use the
Yeah.
cans. Like
Yeah, if they did like a silver with like a slightly transparent
yeah.
blue like hues on there with the yellow and the red, like that would look phenomenal.
Especially the new cans they have, right? Like the whole like they'll have like the blue edition or the orange edition,
uh,
all that kind of stuff.
yeah.
I think that looks really really cool, and you can have some fun with it throughout the season. But
Yeah. I mean, I think like it's sort of goes back to our logo sort of thing. I think like they're going more for brand recognition than they are anything else. But
yeah,
I don't think that that blue is what like I don't think that's the thing that recognizes the Red Bull brand. I think
mm,
it's the Red Bull, it's the red and the yellow and the blue for sure, like the main primary colors. But um I think honestly it's like your brand would still be maintained if you would choose a slightly different blue or
mm-hmm,
just forego even if they forego the blue altogether and it was just white with the red and yellow and it's the Red Bull like actual bull. Like
mm-hmm,
that's instantly recognizable. I know exactly what that car is.
right,
And there's no other white car on the grid right now. You know what I mean? Everything else is black. Like,
mm-hmm,
you might as well just go nuts with it, So it's just it's stale. It's not bad. It's just stale.
Hmm.
It's too predictable.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, I think that brings us to that time of the episode where we kind of walk through our rankings, our personal rankings. So, do you want to go first?
Sure. So, uh, number one for me, VCARB. It's very 90s. It's very perfect. It's that metallic, just really wonderful. Number two, I put Mercedes, specifically because I just love the shape they created with the silver arrow. I love that it sort of has this good, like you were saying, like kind of a story of like the history of the team, or just sort of like where they, kind of where they've been, where they are. I think the silver is just a little bit more of a little bit of a tribute to Lewis, because from the straight on view of the car, seeing the silver and then up to Lewis's helmet is, pretty iconic.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Number three for me is Sauber kick. I love the bold move of the green. I love
Mm-hmm.
that they're going for the cyberpunky kind of vibe with it, the MS DOS sort of thing. Um, and I'm into it. And I think I like a bold decision, and I like that they just went completely the opposite direction of Alfa Romeo. And I'm here for it. For Aston, perfect. No notes.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Just
excellent. It's
my
a
compliments
solid
to the chef.
it's solid 4 on there, only because it hasn't really changed much,
Mm-hmm.
but it's still great. Number 5 is Williams, pretty much just right in the middle. You know what I mean? It's like it's fine. It looks good. It's a good refinement of the old car, but if they didn't really do anything that's really knocking me back, it's just, just a good solid livery. Same with the Ferrari, which is number 6 for me. Only thing that brings it down for me is just that immediate McDonald's association in my head. We'll see how it goes along. I'm curious to see how those red wheels look. I don't know if it's going to look okay or if it's not, but there's some stuff. But like again, once I said, like again, like bold choices, like I'm in for them trying something fun. Um, Number 7, I put the McLaren, only because like I think that they made a refinement to the McLaren from last year that was a big improvement,
Mm-hmm.
but it's still like it needs more papaya and it needs less sponsors. And it would be better, but I still think it looks slightly better than it did last year. 8 is Red Bull just by default, because it's
Yeah.
just they're stale. They're not really doing anything that feels interesting to me. I'm
Yeah.
not excited about it in any way. Um, and then bringing up the rear, um, we have Haas, and the reason why I put Haas at number 9 and not number 10 is because I think that the Haas logo looks nicer. I think the flow of the white stripe looks good, but it really just looks like generic bad guy race car. It's not. It's very very uninspiring in that kind of way, to where it just looks very generic. And then the Alpine is just atrocious. It's just barely any paint. I don't even know if I'm gonna be easily be able to recognize it on the road, because there's so little of anything going
Mm-hmm.
on with it that it just looks like it might just fold into the fray.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. So that's my list. That's
Okay.
pretty much where I am. It looks like you've got quite a few different choices, so I'm curious to see
Yeah.
why you ranked yours the way you ranked yours.
Yeah. Okay. So easily VCARB is my number one. I mean, that is just beautiful. Like chef's kiss.
Mm-hmm.
My compliments to the chef. Like there's like no notes. No notes.
Mm-hmm.
Ferrari, I just that candy apple red just makes me so happy. I look at that and I just feel like, oh, I cannot wait to see that thing go fast on the track.
Mm-hmm.
And if it looks like that when Lewis is driving next year too, hell yeah, I'm here for it.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
I have the Mercedes Performance as the next one because I think just kind of it actually moved up in my ranking as we were talking about it, just because they're doing some really cool stuff with like the different eras they're recognizing here, right? With their levels of success over the last like 10 plus years, and
Yeah.
I think it looks really really nice when you actually
Mm-hmm.
see people next to it because you can kind of see that color contrast.
Right.
Um, Followed up by Aston Martin. This one moved up a bit as we talked about it too, just because it's a really elegant, mature green, and it's simple, right? It's simple, it's clean. Without Hikaru, if you know, you know. Um, and I think it just does a really good job of hitting that like simple but very very impressive look, right?
Mm.
After that, I have Williams. Similar type of reasoning that I gave just for Aston Martin. What I really like about the Williams is that nice little swoosh of red that you have at the nose. It disappears in the middle, but that continuity just picks back up towards the rear of the car. It's a nice two-tone blue with some black in there, but respect. And I like the Duracell cover. Kick Sauber, that was higher on my list, but I actually brought it down just because the art style, I think, is not exactly matching throughout the car design, right? In the front half of the car, in the back half, it's like they were just kind of boom, two people working on it, and they're just like, oh, let's just make it work this way, you know? And so that kind of threw me off, but I love the neon green. I want to see kind of a rework of where the green is located in the car. That'd make a big difference for me.
Yeah.
After Kick Sauber, we have Red Bull, just because they just don't ever change it. It's not that it's bad. I just want to see something a little different. We've seen this for almost 10 years now, right? And it will be nice if they change it up. Ferrari has found a way to change it up, right? Let's do the same thing, Red Bull. That's all. You know, just something different. Not that it's bad. It's just okay. Number 8, we have McLaren, just because again, it feels like they don't know what they want to do with it. And it's definitely a platform on which they will build throughout the year because that's just what they do. But as it is now, I don't like it. I think it's just, I don't know. I feel like the art style isn't speaking to me. The papaya is nice, but I feel like just commit to it, you know? And do a better job with sponsor logo placement. Number 9, Haas. I'm with you. Generic looking car. It's just, I remember I saw it when I loaded up Instagram, and I was like, okay, like that's kind of what I expect. Yeah, it just doesn't feel inspired, right? Like, what's wrong with Haas? Like, I mean, it's, if we're really selling this whole made in the USA thing, make it look like an American car. You know what I mean? Like, there's so many influential American cars, right? And like the way they're designed, right? Whether it's the colors, whatever it is, you can throw that onto the car, right? Like maybe some red, white, and blue in there that actually makes sense, you know? Just this, like, I don't know. I just feel like red, white, and black is such an overdone thing. It is very generic.
It is. Right? Yeah, and it's probably just informed of, well, the Haas logo and the MoneyGram logo being being red,
and that's fine, but you know,
it's like, you know, but part of me wonders, like, you know, I wonder if Formula One has something in its contract that no car can be painted red except for Ferrari.
You know what? Would it be surprising though to find that out? No, not at all.
I know I would be surprised. No,
I'm positive that Ferrari would have some kind of, like, if it's not written down somewhere, there's at least like a handshake agreement that like we can be the only red car on the grid, right?
Yeah.
And last but not least, Alpine, because that team, Alpine, much like their car livery, I don't think they know what they want to be, and especially, I think what gets me about Alpine, this is just a sidebar. What gets me about Alpine is that they feel like a team that, they want to be Ferrari of France, right? They're like this national institution in France, but like, are they?
If they really wanted to be the Ferrari of France, they would paint their car Ferrari French Bugatti blue and stick to it every single year.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? If you want to be the Ferrari of whatever particular country, you race in your car's colors, and then you just stick to it. And honestly, I mean, imagine if that car was like Bugatti blue and had just black wheels and black wings and just had the BWT logo on it with a little bit of splurge of pink here and there.
Yeah.
I mean, it would look great. Like,
perfect,
I mean, you know what I mean? But like, they're, you know, it's void of color. It's like it has little spurts here and there, but it reminds me of a black canvas that somebody just like flicked paint off. You know? Yeah, that's what it looks like to me. So absolutely. I'm not into it. I'm not into it. VCARB all the way, please.
Yeah, absolutely, all day, every day.
All right, everybody. Well, that was our fashion review for the liveries from this year. We're really curious what you guys think. So please, like, let us know in the comments on our post for the episode. Send us a message, send us an email. You can do all of that anywhere you get your podcasts. That's where we're at. We're on Instagram, we're on TikTok, we're on YouTube, we're on Twitter and Threads. You can send us an email, f1 or foffpodcast@gmail.com. Subjects, Gabe is a bastard and his ideas are wrong. Whatever you want to just, send it, like, my ideas for liveries, VCARB sucks, whatever you want to put on there, just, let us know, send it to us. We really appreciate you listening to this episode. We are F1 or F off. Please leave us a 5-star review wherever you want to listen to whatever you get your podcast, wherever you listen to them. Tell your friends, tell your family, tell all of your fashion designers, all the people that help you with your fashion choices in life, and tell them to listen to us and look up the cars and give us their opinion on what they think. And yeah,
I think I just about covered it. Yeah.
Boom.
Boom. All
fashion
right. Thanks, y'all.
Peace out.